Hello everyone, this is Isaac Dawson with Vulnerability Research. I'm going to be walking through the Chrome plugin for adding AI experiments, or if you want to add any other features to our nice little SaaS at GitLab.com. So the way that this works is that it has a number of different ways that you can add stuff. By injecting data into the web page directly, we're able to kind of like sneakily add things like new buttons and new features that would require a full monolith change or the front-end Vue components to be added directly to the monolith. But this will allow you to kind of like test things out, just see what it would look like, see how it would interact with the page, and things like that. So without further ado, let's run through. We're going to do a quick experiment of adding an MR diff button on the MR page. So I will hopefully be able to get that working. This is going to be a one-shot video, so let's hope it works. All right, so to start, we're going to go to this page, or this repo or project or whatever, and we're going to clone it. Do a little git clone, spell it right, git clone. Excuse me. So I created this already exists, it already worked, but I created a new branch that removed it, and then we're just going to re-add it back in so I can show you the steps that you need to go through. And all the documentation is here if you want to do this without watching this video. So we're going to git checkout. What did I call it? I already forgot what I called it. Branches. I think it was like demo move MR diff. All right. So this has nothing in it. We're going to now do a yarn install because we need to get everything installed. And this will resolve a bunch of dependencies. It's going to install the specific Chrome extension related Vue stuff. And that was really quick. All right, so now we're going to do a yarn serve, which will actually build it into a dist directory in the same folder or the same project space. So we got that going. Building for development. And I probably should have done this from, already got an error. That shouldn't happen. Can't resolve. Because I didn't change that thing. Okay. There's one thing I forgot to, let's just do code from here. So we're going to maximize this. There's one thing I forgot to remove before this demo, which will break everything, which is this. We'll add that back later. Oop. Nothing to see here. Okay. Try that again, yarn serve. That is something that you will need to add for any new directory, which I'll walk through. Okay, so now we have our extension built. We need to add it to Chrome. And if you see this little icon up here, go to Manage Extensions. If you don't have developer mode turned on, click that, and then you'll see this load unpacked. I should already be in the directory, but let's just make sure. Yep, AI experimentation, and then dist, and then this is the plugin code, basically. And then there we have it. We have our little extension here. So it has some things you will probably want to do is like click that to pin it. So you get this nice little GitLab icon. We can put our API key here, as well as some default settings. Now inside of your own component, you can completely override these if you need to use a different model or whatever. So just keep that in mind. There's also an AI assist button. If you save that and then you go to like, I think we just got to reload this. You see this little AI assist, and then we can kind of read some of the data and send it there as well. I haven't worked with this too much. This was something that was added. I'm going to show mainly how to add different new components. But anyways, that's there if you want to play with it. And if it doesn't work, let us know. Okay, so we have our plugin in place. We're going to now add a diff view. So if we go to like GitLab.com, and again, you don't want to really run this stuff on the GitLab namespace because license, all that stuff. So I think I have like a SQLite merge requests diffs, yeah. So what I want to do is I want to have buttons that show up on each one of my changes. So each file, there's going to be a button that says like explain this, because that's what I want. So we're going to actually close this. We're going to do this from code. And also I need to, since I don't exactly remember how I wrote this, I am going to go back to the Chrome extension. And we'll just go one by one, and I'll explain as I add in the new files. All right, so first up, we need a directory for our component. So we will go back to code. We're going to make a new folder called MR diff. So this is going to house a Vue component. It's your standard. You have like a main.js and then an app.vue. So let's make our main.js. And then we need to go to mrdiff main, and I will walk through this. All right, so just have some UI stuff that we want to initialize. And then we have the app name. This is going to be a CSS class that we need to apply in our content script, which I'll explain what that is in a minute. And then anytime it sees that class name, it uses this CSS selector, it will instantiate this particular Vue component on that. So, and then we pass in the app name just so we know as well. So save that. Now we need our Vue component. And we're going to kind of copy file contents. And we need our new file app. Right, so this is our component that we want to inject. First, we get access to the body because that contains our extension ID. And the way that we send messages back and forth between the injected script onto GitLab.com and the background worker service that kind of does everything for us, it needs to know the extension ID, otherwise anybody could call it. So we pull that out, we get some various information, get the settings. In this case, I have a message of getting a request. This is something else. This is part of the actual feature itself, not so much to do with how to write your own. And then what happens is once we get the settings, we mount our settings. We say, yep, this is loaded, it's ready to go. And then I believe we have some kind of stuff that we do for, explaining response. This is another method for actually doing the diff stuff, which I'll explain. And then this is the button we're going to inject. So we have a little show modal that has a button. They click explain. It's going to explain the diff by making it a request through the content script. So it's actually going through GitLab's like content security policy to make this request to a GitLab API, pull out the patch information, parse through it, and then we have a nice little diff that we can send. Because if you look at the diff HTML, it's pretty gnarly. Like, there's no way you're going to want to like use this information. Oh, you can't see it from here. I need open DevTools. But this stuff is like, there's nested diffs. This isn't like just a text you can pull out. You have to get it in a different way. So with that in mind, we now have our folder. So we need to do a couple things. One is the thing that I messed up earlier. We have to create this page. So here we're going to do, mrdiff, and then template. Just use the default stuff. This isn't too important. The important part is that we need to pass in the directory. mrdiff main. And I'll just call this mrdiff component. It's not going to do it. This is for a normal Vue app. This would be replacing it, but we just need it so it compiles this entry field. You might be able to just ignore this completely, but whatever. Good to get in there. So we now have it being able to compile. If we do yarn serve, this may crash. Let's find out. Nope, it's good. Okay, so then we need to actually inject this into GitLab.com when we load. So we're going to create a, mrdiff new file, mrdiff.js. So it's good to keep these little bits separate, so as we add new features to it, you can have it in its own file. Again, I don't remember how I wrote this, so I'm going to go back, go to source, and then content scripts, mrdiff. All right, so we tried to abstract away a lot of the kind of nastiness of doing this, because this is not how Vue is supposed to work. You don't just like randomly inject data into a web page. Usually it's, you build the application, you know exactly where it's going to go. You don't have to find stuff. But what we need here is a number of preset bits of information. The first is that app name. If you remember from here, we had this app name. This must match what we're going to be injecting into the web page. So that's the app name. And then we need the JS file. So we need this so that it knows once it finds this app name or CSS selector class, that it knows to load this JavaScript, otherwise it won't work. In this case, we have a page type. So which page types do we want to inject this into? And if you go to our site and you open up, oh man, can I make this bigger? Oh, sweet, I can. If you go to our site, you go to sources, maybe elements, you'll see that in the body, we have these data attributes, and one of them is this data page. And this will tell you what type of page this is. So if we go to a different page, like I think if we go to like labels, I want to do that in the same thing. This should have something like page, yep, projects, labels, index. So you can use this to kind of filter what you want to inject your component into. But yeah, that's how that works. And then we have a location selector. So this is where you actually want to inject your component. So if it's like up here, you would say like next to this, whatever this thing is. This is my user dropdown. So I would use this selector and say, or maybe even this one, and say inject it next to that thing. So in our case, for the MR diff, oh no, where did my, there we go. In this case, let's take a look at this one. And I'm just doing Open Apple option and then I to open up the dev tools if you're not familiar. And then we want, let's see, MR version controls, MR version container. Oh wait, no, I don't want it there. Sorry, I want it in next to this thing. So that is file header content. So div, this is a CSS selector, and I think in the docs I'd link how to get these. File header content. So then we have a container we need to inject. You can just copy and paste from this exact thing. In fact, you can copy and paste all this, just change this, which is the name of your feature directory. So in our case, it's mrdiff. If it was overlay, it would be overlay.js. And then, yeah, you can just modify these as you go. But yeah, so then we have this inject component, which is where we actually inject it into the page. So that being said, we now have our mrdiff. We have to actually call it from here. So we're going to do mrdiff and then extension ID. And that create mrdiff button on mru page. And that should be it. I think, let's find out. So we're going to reload this. Sometimes it doesn't work, and you'll need to actually forcibly reload as you're developing anyways. You can try to reload it like this, or in some cases, if you're adding or calling certain Chrome internal APIs, you have to actually uninstall it and reinstall it, which is, it's a pain, but definitely if something you think absolutely should be working and it's not, remove the plugin and add it back, because I guarantee it's like some wackiness that's happening that you just need to reload it. So let's see if that worked. And it did. So we have this little explain button now. I haven't set up a key. Let's see if, oh, it did work. Okay, cool. So this just added this modal as you click on the explain button. Oops. And then we have the diff that's specific to this particular thing. And I just did this, if you want to take a look at the code, for the app view. So again, you click that button. What it does is it then goes to basically parse out, I think, request. Yeah. So it takes the location and then does a dot patch. So if you go to, it's kind of funny if you didn't know this, you can just do diffs dot patch, and boom, you have the diff information. So pro tip there. And then, so we're calling into the extension saying, okay, make this request. And we want to do this from, because we want to cache it. So if we go to the background. So let me explain the background. The Background.js is kind of the extension service that's actually running. It is limited in the sense that you don't have access to the, well, you can get access to the cookies, but you're not running in the context of GitLab.com. You're running in the context of the extension. So you have to kind of do some kind of funkiness to make requests and stuff. In our case, we're caching here. So we say, from the app, we're saying, hey, send a message to the Chrome extension, this ID, this type, with this data. And then once I get a response, call this method, which is process diff. So if we go back to the background, it's going to this handle message. It's saying, hey, what type is it? And it is a request. We're going to see if it's in the cache. If we have a response already, because we don't want to, remember, we just injected that button like on, if it's a large MR, like 100 different pages or 100 different cards. So we only want to call this request once. So then we fetch it, and then we get the response, and then we return it and cache it, and then send it back using send response back to the content script. So again, there's actually 3 contexts. You have the content script that you're injecting, you have the background surface worker, and then you have the overlay page here, and they're all completely separate. And the only way you can talk to each other through these is by sending messages through the background script using Chrome runtime send message, or there's a ports thing, but we didn't implement that. So that's how that works. And if this doesn't make sense, just let me know. I will explain it better some other time, or to you, or make another video. So yeah, we have a number of little messages that you can do, like reload settings, get available models, prompt requests. This is when you actually want to send a prompt. It takes settings as well, and then it'll respond it to you. So I'm going to actually see if this works, which, fingers crossed. First I need to get my key, OpenAI key, copy. We're going to go here. Yep. We're going to paste that in. We're going to save. We're going to reload. Let's see if this works. So I wanted to explain these changes for this diff, which is just source backup. So explain changes. Fingers crossed this works. I haven't tried this in a while. I don't know. Oh, it does. So it says this GitLab diff shows changes to a file name, source backup, the lines, blah, blah, blah. On the first line, oh, of course, this looks awful, but I mean, this is just a demo just to make sure that everything worked. But you can see that it gives you a nice little summary of that shows what's changing. So whether it's true or not, who knows? So yeah, that is adding an MR diff button. Again, you can play with different pages you want to inject to, different components. But yeah, that's pretty much all you need to know to get started. Again, if there's any other information that you need, let me know and I can give it to you. But yeah, pretty much create a directory, create your little content script, make sure to add it here. And then don't forget to add it to this, otherwise it will not compile and you'll be like, where is it? And it's nowhere, but you definitely need to add this. And that should complete this video tutorial. Yes, thank you for watching.